Hello everybody and welcome to part 4 of the Complete Dalek Timeline, a series where I chronicle the history of Doctor Who's most famous villains, the Daleks. If you're not already caught up, you can catch the 3 previous parts of the series in a playlist linked down below. Due to mysterious circumstances, the 10th Doctor is pulled back in time into the middle of the Dalek-Mavellan conflict. It is here that he reunites with Mark 7 and Anya Kingdom, members of the anti-Dalek force who he previously worked with on Exelon in his 4th incarnation. The 10th Doctor, Mark 7 and Anya Kingdom then track down a scientist called Arborek to Beltros Station in order to return the 10th Doctor to his original time period. However, it turns out that Arborek and Military Major McClin were working together in order to mutate wounded soldiers into fake Daleks in an attempt to combat the growing Dalek threat, with Arborek himself mutating. In an attempt to remind the fake Daleks of their humanity, Mark 7 confronted an old friend of his, now mutated, and tried to restore their memories of him. This resulted in Mark being exterminated and the Doctor fleeing with Anya. However, Mark was not killed, though he was severely damaged, with his anti-Dalek programming overtaking all semblance of personality. Mark's body was then recovered and used as a template for a robotic army with which humanity could combat the Daleks. The 10th Doctor then speculated that Mark eventually wound up on the planet Mavella, where he would become the first Mavellan. The Doctor and Anya Kingdom find themselves in the middle of a Dalek and Mavellan space battle, whereupon they are rescued by a human ship, a ship that is also harbouring a very dangerous passenger, Davros, albeit still in suspended animation. A Dalek fleet soon caught up to the human ship, and after this, the Doctor thawed Davros in an attempt to use him as a bargaining chip, knowing he was now of some value to the Daleks. However, the Daleks were not easily tricked by the Doctor, resulting in the ship being shot down and crashing on the planet Kemble. At some point during the war, the Emperor had reinstated a Supreme Dalek. This Supreme led a Dalek squadron onto Kemble in pursuit of the Doctor and Davros. Mark 7, the first Mavellan, demands Davros' presence and upon speaking to him demands that Davros be put to work manufacturing a weapon to destroy the Daleks, with the Doctor as his assistant. Davros remarks that through Mark and the Mavellans, the Doctor has been instrumental in the creation of an all-powerful warrior race, sparking similarities between the two that haunt the Doctor. Also, while investigating the Mavellan network, Davros notices a weak spot and, after inviting the Supreme Dalek to a fake truce with the Mavellans, exploited it. Catching Mark 7 off guard, Davros delivered a lethal handshake, spreading a virus into Mark and the rest of the Mavellans. The Doctor was able to limit the virus's spread to just Mark's ship, however, and the rest of the Mavellans were fine. In a last attempt to eradicate the Mavellans, a time bubble opened up that led to the Doctor, Mark and Anya in the past. A Dalek attempted to kill Mark in this moment, but failed. An army of humans then descended onto the planet Kemble, where they would make a grand stand against the Daleks in an attempt to recapture Davros. The humans were successful, and Davros was placed back into suspended animation, ready to stand trial yet again. This defeat could not have been more devastating for the Daleks, as not only had they lost their creator again, but also Davros' invention of a specifically targeted virus inspired the Mavellans to invent such a virus that would target and destroy only Daleks. 90 years later, and the Daleks were devastated. The Mavellans had perfected their virus that proved to decimate the Daleks on a universal scale, allowing for the Mavellans to deactivate. The Daleks, in an attempt to escape the clutches of the virus, separated and would flee in small groups to different corners of the universe. This resulted in a newly appointed Black Supreme Leader rescuing Davros from suspended animation, still en route to Earth for trial, and begs Davros to develop a cure. Also following the Mavellan War, tensions with the Time Lords are escalating as the Time Lords finally register the Daleks as a genuine threat to the web of time, and the Daleks register the Time Lords as threats to the Dalek Empire. This leads to the Daleks trapping the 5th Doctor in a newly developed time corridor and extracting him and his companions to 20th century Earth. Here, the Daleks plan to duplicate the Doctor and send him to Gallifrey, there to assassinate the members of the Gallifreyan High Council, And yes, this story sees the introduction of Dalek duplicates, complete DNA replications with Dalek programming deep within. Of course, the Daleks fail to capture the Doctor in the end, but what they also fail to do is recruit Davros. Still bitter over his extermination in Genesis and realising that the Daleks only care to rescue him when it suits their own needs, Davros plans to betray the Daleks by converting some Daleks to his cause, creating a new race of Daleks obedient to him and killing the rest of them with the Mavellan virus. The Doctor learns of Davros' return and goes to assassinate him, but is unable to do so. The Supreme Leader then, learning of Davros' betrayal, attempts to assassinate Davros with a handful of Daleks, but Davros unleashes the Mavellan virus on them, killing them. Davros then commands the few Daleks loyal to him to engage in a battle with other Daleks loyal to the Supreme. Also, the Doctor releases a large amount of the Mavellan virus, killing any Daleks left on Earth. The Supreme, aboard the mothership, threatens the Doctor in a last effort to gain victory. The Supreme explains that there are duplicates of prominent humans scattered all over Earth, ready to annihilate the planet in the name of Dalek conquest. The Doctor doubts this though, as Dalek control over the duplicates is already weakening due to the small number of Daleks left. A Dalek duplicate by the name of Stein then manages to break free of his Dalek conditioning and blows up the mothership with himself still aboard, killing the remainder of the Daleks. Davros ends the story with the Mavellan virus latching onto his Khalid DNA and attacking him also. On the brink of death, Davros re-enters suspended animation as activated by his life support system and drifts in space for the foreseeable future. It is here that I will place Into the Dalek, mainly for the fact that Journey Blue remarks that the Daleks are using duplicates. Also for the fact that the Daleks are in an unnamed war with humanity, a war I speculate to be the aftermath of the Dalek-Mavellan War, with humans having aided the Mavellans during that conflict. It is here that the 12th Doctor discovers a damaged Dalek that he calls Rusty, on board a hidden human ship named the Aristotle. This is no ordinary damaged Dalek though, as it appears to have developed a sense of morality, dubbing the Dalek Empire as evil. The 12th Doctor miniaturises himself and investigates the Dalek, finding that a radiation leak has clouded its memories and emotions. Fixing the problem, Rusty returns to its normal Dalek ways and unveils the hidden ship it resides on, with a Dalek fleet on the way to exterminate all humans aboard. Luckily, the Doctor manages to form a psychic connection with Rusty, sharing his hatred of the Daleks with Rusty, causing the damaged Dalek to acknowledge the evil of the Daleks and exterminate the squadron of Daleks that enter the ship. The Doctor does not consider this a victory, however, as he really attempted to show Rusty the beauty and divinity of the universe in an effort to truly turn it into a good Dalek. Rusty informs the Doctor that his hatred and prior genocides of the Daleks make him what the Daleks would call a good Dalek, and with that, Rusty leaves, waging war against the rest of its own kind across the universe. A few years later, the apparent corpse of Davros is recovered by businessman and CEO of Trans-Allied Incorporated, Arnold Baines, and his wife Lorraine. Though their readings of Davros suggest he is deceased, they smuggle his body back to their home, believing that with better equipment they may be able to revive him. The 6th Doctor is then called to T.A.I. by a journalist named Willis, investigating the company's shady antics. The Doctor investigates and discovers Davros at the centre of the main company dome, with Arnold and Lorraine being revealed to be Dalek sympathisers, hell-bent on restoring Davros to life. Davros then awakes to the sound of the Doctor's voice and finds himself offered a job as the head of R&D by the Baines couple. After some back and forth between the Doctor and Davros about their opposing moralities, the pair of them are both hired to fill the same position and head to work. The Doctor proceeds to try and provoke Davros the next day, disrupting his work and teasing him, but to no avail. Eventually, Davros remarks that the Doctor is the closest thing to a friend he has ever had, and the two work together to produce a neural matrix and various technologies that will resolve famine in the Mutter's spiral. The Doctor goes to investigate further into the company. Meanwhile, Davros researches a formula that would allow him to dominate the stock market, and proceeds to present Willis with the formula and a bomb he has cobbled together, accusing Baines of constructing it. Davros plans to use this formula to override the economy and implement a new war-based power structure. If he won't be remembered for the Daleks, he will surely be remembered for this. Willis presents this news to the Doctor and Arnold in the company mineshaft, but Davros activates the bomb. The The Doctor manages to dispose of the bomb just in time to save the three of them, but the bomb still causes major structural damage to the mines and separates the Doctor from Arnold and Willis. Arnold then kills Willis to prevent him from sharing his recent discoveries and reunites with the Doctor, staging the murder as an accident in the collapsing tunnels. Davros, assuming Arnold is dead, instructs Lorraine to make him the new CEO of T.A.I. and also to liquidate assets into a mercenary army while money still has meaning. The Doctor and Arnold arrive in Davros' office and Arnold attempts to persuade Davros into making him even richer, but Davros, no longer masking his true intentions, kills Arnold with electricity projected from his one working hand. Davros goes to fly away in Arnold's personal ship, but Lorraine and the Doctor still have control of the ship so long as it remains in the planet's atmosphere. Davros also knows this, so activates the ship's hyperdrive in an effort to escape before the Doctor can capture him. The Doctor is too quick, however, and, with regret, steers the ship back towards the planet as the hyperdrive activates, crashing the ship into the planet's surface and exploding it. Despite this seemingly final end for Davros, the Doctor does not believe that Davros is truly dead, and he definitely knows that T.A.I. is not dead, despite Davros' efforts. In a final move to get true justice, the Doctor recovers the ship's logs of Arnold and Lorraine rescuing Davros and intends to use it to see Lorraine held accountable for her actions. Of course, Davros miraculously survived the events in the T.A.I. and fled the scene, arriving on the planet Necros in the cryogenic facility Tranquil Repose. Davros planned to use the cryogenically frozen occupants of Tranquil Repose to create a new line of Daleks, mutating them in secret. This line of Daleks are to be loyal to him and would go on to be known by fans as the Imperial Daleks. Davros masks this operation by posing as the Great Healer, selling the human remains that he doesn't need as concentrated protein, in effect ending famine in the local galaxy using statistics and data that he acquired at the T.A.I. However, enemies of Davros informed a faction of Daleks loyal to the Emperor and Supreme of Davros' line of Daleks, and this first batch of Imperial Daleks were eliminated, with Davros himself being captured by the Daleks and held for trial. Davros is then held on trial by the Daleks on board their ship, shortly after leaving Necros. A Thal spy named Larine discovers Davros and sneaks aboard the ship, attempting to release a strain of the Mavellan virus and take out the Daleks. Davros stops this plan though, and the Daleks, for a brief time, pledge allegiance to Davros, hailing him as the soon-to-be Emperor of the Daleks. This ship somehow crashes on the planet Leth, killing all Daleks aboard. Davros, as ever, survives this event and ventures into a human colony, disguising himself as an able-bodied man under the guise Professor Varzo. He soon works with companion of the 6th Doctor, Melanie Bush, to construct an army of juggernauts based on the mechanoids after she too crash lands on the planet. The Emperor's Daleks then discover Davros on this planet and retrieve the Doctor and his TARDIS via time scoop, telling him to bring a stop to Davros' plans. They also reveal that the planet Leth may have an atmosphere lethal to Daleks, hence why they cannot perform this mission themselves. The Black Supreme promises the Doctor and Mel's freedom if he is able to recapture Davros for them, and the Doctor agrees, being transmitted down to the planet's surface where he reunites with Mel. The Doctor explores the human colony and soon discovers that Davros is in fact keeping 3 damaged Daleks, most likely from the crash, hidden in his lab. Davros reveals that the mechanoids are the perfect Dalek killers and he plans to use them to overthrow the Emperor. He has a Juggernaut take the Doctor and Mel hostage, who soon discover a mutated organism inside. Davros has been combining Dalek and mechanoid technology. The Doctor, shocked by this discovery, calls down the Emperor's Daleks to capture Davros. A battle breaks out between Daleks and Juggernauts, though Davros attempts to sway the Daleks onto his side by offering to upgrade them in the same vein he did with the mechanoids. This proves fruitless though, and Davros' Daleks are executed. A Dalek then reveals the atmospheric concern of the Daleks to have been a fiction, used to lure the Doctor into the same space as Davros. There, the both of them will be captured and brought to Skaro. This Dalek is luckily destroyed by a Juggernaut, and the Doctor escapes with Mel, but not before she initiates an attack on Davros from the Juggernauts. The pair then transmat onto the TARDIS and flee. Davros is then left to fend against both Juggernauts and Daleks, however the Daleks eventually win the battle and retrieve Davros once again. Davros is then returned to Skaro and held on trial by the Emperor. I'd just like to clarify that it took me absolutely ages to be able to track down anything about this comic online other than some really low quality Google images. So, appreciation for the hard work that I've put into getting footage of this would really mean a lot. Anyway. The Emperor struggles to maintain control of the Daleks though, as many believe that Davros should be learned from instead of executed, with Davros also using the Emperor's battle computer as an example to accuse the Daleks of becoming too machine-like, diverting from their original course of constant evolution to become the most supreme power in the universe. The Emperor, outraged, attempts to keep control of the Daleks and sentences Davros to execution anyway. Surprisingly, the Sixth Doctor, hiding in the shadows up until this very moment, rescues Davros by infecting the Daleks with a computer virus that limits their mobility, and he hides Davros inside the TARDIS. The Emperor, even more outraged, consults with the Supreme Dalek in a plan to extract Abslom Dark from his time stream and use him to execute Davros and the Doctor. Dark is transported to the planet Hell, where he comes across not the Sixth Doctor, but the Seventh Doctor and his companion Bernice Summerfield. Dark is persuaded to capture the Doctor by Dalek robots posing as Earth Elders. Once Dark has captured the Doctor, the Elders are revealed to be under Dalek control, and the Doctor, along with Dark, find themselves in the Emperor Dalek's council chamber on Skaro. The Doctor explains to Bernice that they have arrived in the middle of his previous incarnation's rescue of Davros, and that the Daleks will want him alive in order to discover where the Sixth Doctor is hiding Davros. Eventually, the Supreme and Emperor Daleks torture the Seventh Doctor until he reveals where the Sixth Doctor has hidden Davros, and the Emperor commands the Doctor to lead a Dalek task force to this planet. To ensure the Doctor does not betray the Daleks, Bernice is converted into a Roboman, with the promise of her free will being returned once the mission is complete. The Seventh Doctor and Abslom Dark lead the Daleks to an unknown planet. However, upon leaving the Dalek ship and venturing out onto the surface, the Daleks are attacked by live vegetation, forcing them to burn the surrounding forest. And no, I don't know why this single issue of the comic is printed in colour, but just ignore it. With the Daleks, Doctor and Dark venturing on, they discover a giant pyramid with Davros as the summit. Davros reveals that for him, it has been a whole year since the Sixth Doctor deposited him onto the planet, and he has spent that time reviving the second half of the Dalek army that the Third Doctor had previously frozen. Yes, they are on Spyrodon. A battle between the Emperor's task force and Davros' army breaks out, with Bernice breaking free of Dalek control in the process. The Supreme, outnumbered by Davros' army, orders ships in orbits around Spyrodon to fire at the pyramid. Davros, having foreseen this strategy, activates a force field around the pyramid which reflects the ship's firepower, destroying the Dalek fleet. The Supreme Dalek, furious with the Doctor's betrayal, questions the Doctor on why he is working with Davros. The Doctor explains to the Supreme that he merely manipulated Davros into sparking a Dalek civil war, an effort that will hopefully destroy all Daleks across the universe. Davros' Daleks then scare away the Supreme, and the Doctor confronts Davros. He asks if Davros has stuck to his end of a bargain struck with the Sixth Doctor, giving his race of Daleks a conscience. Davros predictably reveals that he has double-crossed the Doctor, and instead has spent a year reinforcing his Daleks' weapons, making them far stronger than the Emperor's Legion. Davros also reveals his plan to return to Skaro and depose the Emperor, telling the Doctor to grant him access to a computer virus used on Skaro, and to surrender the location of a Time Lord device known as the Hand of Omega, something the Doctor's previous incarnation mentioned in passing to Davros, setting up a chain of events for the future. The Doctor, Bernice and Davros return to Skaro, with Davros chastising the Doctor for his gullibility. How could the Doctor possibly believe that Davros would give the Daleks a conscience? Davros then activates the computer virus, now far more deadly, and the Emperor watches on in horror as his own Daleks implode, one by one. Davros descends onto Skaro and visits the Emperor in his council chamber to gloat. Informing the Emperor that he is the last Dalek, Davros then orders his own race of Imperial Daleks to exterminate the former ruler of the Daleks. The Emperor would later be revealed to have survived this encounter though, as this was in fact a decoy casing, with the Emperor actually hidden elsewhere on Skaro. The Doctor then summons his TARDIS using a time ring, and reveals to Davros that the computer virus will also cause the Dalek city to explode, with Davros and his Daleks now in the heart of the city. In a desperate attempt to make sure that Davros is dead once and for all, though, Absalom Dark slices Davros' chair with his chainsword in a blow that also destroyed 2 of his Daleks. This rendered Davros immobile, and the Doctor escaped with Bernice and Dark, leaving Davros helpless as the city exploded. The 7th Doctor then meets up with the 6th Doctor, who asks the 7th Doctor if everything went according to plan. The two simply toast to the future and share a drink together. A few days after the explosion, Davros wakes up with new casing having been installed, and he is hailed by the Imperial Daleks as the Emperor of the Daleks. Davros then, with slight memory loss, recalls his interest with the Hand of Omega, and sets the Daleks on a course to find it and stop the Doctor once and for all. Davros, now instated as Emperor, decrees any Daleks loyal to the Emperor's old cause as renegades. He and a batch of Daleks then take a brief detour from their search of the Hand of Omega to infiltrate the Battle of Waterloo on Earth in yet another attempt to construct a timeline where the Daleks rule Earth. The 6th Doctor again foils any plans that Davros has though, leaving Davros to determine that the Doctor will not stand in his way anymore. The remaining renegade Daleks, now led by the Supreme, would catch wind of Davros' intentions to retrieve the Hand of Omega, leading both opposing Dalek factions to converge on London, 1963, in an event known as the Shoreditch Incident. The two factions engage in an all-out war, eventually leaving Davros' Imperial Daleks victorious. As the victors, they claim the Hand of Omega and deliver it to Davros aboard the Dalek mothership. Davros then swears to use the Hand of Omega to destroy Gallifrey, an act which would decree the Daleks as the new Lords of Time. This would be accomplished by converting Skaro's sun into a source of infinite power, similar to Gallifrey's own Eye of Harmony. The Doctor begs Davros not to use the device, but he does, gloating that he has finally beaten the Doctor. Except, he didn't, as the Doctor, being one of the Hand's creators, tampered with the device, causing it to send Skaro's sun into supernova. This action both completely destroyed Skaro, killing any remaining Imperials on the planet, and also backfired onto Davros' ship, killing anything aboard. Davros survived this backfire in an escape pod, but the Imperial Daleks had been destroyed for good. The Doctor then, still on Earth, convinced the last remaining Dalek, the Renegade Supreme, that the Dalek cause was defeated. Not knowing of the true Emperor's survival, the Supreme acknowledged its life as meaningless and committed suicide, bringing an end to the Shoreditch Incident. That brings an end to part 4 of the Complete Dalek Timeline, but be sure to like, subscribe and turn notifications on so that you don't miss part 5.